How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is your boy Big C, and Paxamillion is joining us today. Producer Pax, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Got the baby to bed. I got some time to talk with Big tonight, so excited to talk about Chambers Bay.
Yeah, I think it's a long time coming we've done this. I think we're the perfect two to talk about this. I mean, maybe we could have invited last minute JD on. He might have some hot takes on Chambers, but him being a resident of Seattle. But I think, it's in your backyard place, the area that you grew up in. It's my adopted home area now, the Pacific Northwest. And, I think both of us think about it the same way. I think all of us in the Pacific Northwest hold Chambers Bay close to our heart because we don't get a lot of championship golf here. The USGA, PGA, they just snuff us. We don't get good looks on PGA Tour events. We don't get good looks on majors. We have incredibly good golf out here. It's just, for what they're looking for, I think Chambers was one of the only courses that kind of fits that bill. And as we all know from that championship, I think I don't know if we'll ever get one back. We didn't have a lot of great publicity when it came to that, but
yeah,
we think it's fantastic. We think it's an all-out 5-star championship style golf course that should host more tournaments, should host more PGA or USGA events. It should get its recognition, and we're going to get into it. But Pax, why would you say that this would be the crown? Personally, I am a fan of Chambers over, the beloved Bandon. Ashton will always say, and he'll always give me shit, that I haven't played every Bandon course, and this is true. I still have not played Trails, but in my opinion, from every course that I've played at Bandon, I find Chambers to be above all of them, and that's just my humble opinion. I might be slighted on that, but what would you say makes Chambers so good?
Oh man, I think for me, Chambers Bay is a very romantic golf course. Romantic in the sense that, I think the way I think of Chambers Bay is just, yeah, they hosted the U.S. Open in 2015, and it's so cool that they did because I grew up 10 minutes down the road. I grew up in Steilacoom, Washington. Chambers Bay is in University Place, kind of close to Tacoma. And I actually, I was able to be a volunteer on the last day. I didn't volunteer the whole day. I was living in Portland then. So I volunteered for half the day, and I was able to kind of be on property when DJ missed that putt. And I just remember everyone, everyone's breath was taken away. No one could believe that he missed a 3-footer. It was so surreal. I think just the whole surreal aspect of it, and seeing the grandstands on 18. Those were the biggest grandstands in U.S. Open history at the time. I'm not entirely sure. That might be totally wrong. But just the grand scale of the course is crazy. And yeah, the first time I got to play it was in 2014. This might have been when like before they moved to, I believe it is.
So
I can't
that
remember.
was when they still had the natural fescue. That was
Yeah,
before they did the POA fescue
yeah,
changeover. So you've got to experience the pre changeover and what all the pros complained about,
yeah,
and then you've played it post U.S. Open. So
yeah.
we'll get into kind of, I don't know if you remember fully. One round in 2014 is a little hard to kind of look back on and remember.
Yeah, I just remember the feeling that I had playing that golf course. I remember it being so quiet. The first time I played it in 2014, I think it was in October time, I want to say. So fall trees, very orange. Everything was very orange. But I remember the course being so quiet, like teeing off on one and well, when you get to Chambers Bay, like when you get to the pro shop, the pro shop is like up top and then they shuttle you down. It's kind of probably like how Bandon is, like they shuttle you out to the course and all that stuff, but kind of park at top, they shuttle you down. And this was in college and we were all so excited. And I just remember that, yeah, the first tee box was the quietest ever. Like there were a bunch of people kind of walking around and all of that, but the property it funnels in and it keeps the noise kind of dampened down. And you could hear whispers like from, maybe not from like, the green, but you could definitely hear whispers like 100 yards away. I played horrible. I think I shot like a 95. But yeah, I remember the golf course being so quiet and so intimate, and just a sense of like, wow, this is really cool that it's in my backyard. And that we hosted arguably the biggest golf tournament in the world, US Open. And going back the following year, being able to volunteer and being around that atmosphere, I think I only saw like maybe a couple golf shots, but being able to see those guys kind of play the course and watching the trophy ceremony, Jordan Spieth lift up. I don't know. It's just a very romantic golf course to me, and it just means so much to me. I think that's why I love it, the most.
So, in the words of Tron Carter, it's a giant bathtub. So the course is built on an old, on a grounds of an old quarry, and kind of a cool backstory with the grounds. All the rock and sand that were mined out of this area, they actually were used on the majority of the freeways and streets that built up the entire Pacific Northwest, or that area of the Pacific Northwest, and Seattle and Tacoma and those areas, which is kind of really cool that you're playing a property that you've also driven on roads that were, inhabited by the same material that the golf course is built on, which is, I don't know, geeky but neat, in my opinion. I think that's kind of cool. And it also just integrates the course more in with the Pacific Northwest, because you are legitimately driving on the roads that golf course is created on, and the actual scope of the golf course and how it kind of bowls in and creates kind of that bathtub feel, with multiple different layers and tiers. That's, I think one of the coolest properties that could only exist because it was a quarry and it was, man manufactured with those different layers and different undulations by the dozers and the mining and the explosions and all of those things. And because of that, you get another really cool feature kind of coming through the course, which is the train. I think every 3 or 4 holes, you might hear it 3 to 4 times throughout the round. But the reason the train is there is because that's how they used to get all of the slurry and rock and all of that stuff to where it needed to be then offloaded and utilized in the larger projects to build the roadway system of that part of the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of just fascinating and cool. And I think what the architects did by leaving, actual structures that were utilized during the mining process and when they were doing it there in the middle of the golf course, just as features that don't necessarily get in the way or cause a hazard or any harm of the play of the course, but it's just visually breathtaking because they are very large structures and large features.
It's almost like those give it an extra added history to the course. Like the course has been there for
you almost feel like you're playing in ruins.
Right, yeah. You feel like the course has been there for 100 years, but I think it was built in 2008, something like that, 2010.
Late 2000s, early 2010s. Yep. I'd have to relook it up. I don't know the exact date, but it wasn't much earlier than when the PGA, the U.S. Open came out and was held out there, which is, you speaking of DJ missing that putt. We just saw it again last weekend with Rory, so
it's a thing. It's tough.
The U.S. Open isn't easy, and I think Chambers was an absolute test. As we all know, every single golfer had a piss fit about the fescue greens out there, and it was a reason that the course spent an absurd amount of money to change all of the greens over to POA, and then no USGA, come on. You're snubbing us.
Yeah.
You're snubbing us. You gave us one chance, and we changed over to POA to kind of help out with that, and you're still not giving us another chance. USGA, we need you back out here.
Yeah. What kind of sucks about that too is that I think 2015 was one of the hotter summers of the decade. I want to say, and yeah, they didn't water it all that much. I think they wanted to dry it out and make it super, super firm and super tough. And when I played it during the wintertime, it was soft, but you could still let the ball roll and you still felt like you were playing links style golf. But I can only imagine what the pros would shoot on, what the score would be if they, if the USGA let the course or if they let them, take care of the course a little bit better instead of drying it out and making it look all brown and stuff. Because I don't know, that's not how I think of Chambers Bay. I think of Chambers Bay as being very lush and green and not super soft, but not demoralizing when you play the course.
I mean, I've played Chambers twice. I've played it in the summer, and then I've also played it, in December, January time. And, in the summer, it was probably a good 80-degree day, no clouds, and it played firm. I mean, it definitely firms up out there, but like you said, we'll probably get a couple months out of the year, and that's why during the U.S. Open, it was last weekend when we're recording this, and, it's going to play that way at this time of the year. We're finally getting firm, dry conditions out here in the Pacific Northwest, so, in the summer, it'll definitely play that way for about 2.5 to 3 months, but it being right on the water and open to kind of the wind and everything playing off of the Puget Sound, even when it is wet, you're not going to get plugs. You're not going to get, anything like you're normally going to get in Pacific Northwest course. You're just going to get a little less roll, and the greens will be a little bit more receptive.
Yeah.
But, other than that, it all plays well year round. But
yeah,
I think my first time coming there, I think driving up into the parking lot, going into the pro shop, and then walking out the backside where the patio is.
Ooh,
I mean,
yeah.
it takes your breath away. I mean, I've been to Bandon, and it's beautiful views at Bandon, but how elevated the pro shop and the facility is at the top of the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and standing out there, you've got a 30-foot cliff basically that just falls down into the holes, and it is breathtaking with the Puget Sound. You can, on a clear day, you can see all the way to the Space Needle.
Yeah.
I mean, Space Needle's deep. You can see it very, very small, very vast. Yeah. But, I mean, you can see all the way into Gig Harbor, and
you can see the bridge
like
and like the mountain, the Cascades and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from all different areas. When you get down into the bowl, you can't really see a whole lot when it goes east, but you still have the view of the Puget Sound from every single hole in that golf course. And, I mean, it's just absolutely breathtaking. I mean, the way the course is laid out and the undulations and how they utilize shared fairways on a lot of holes, it like you said, it's a very romantic feeling. You feel like you're alone out there. You feel like it's just you and the group that you're playing with.
Yeah.
Because even though it feels very intimate because of that bowl and you're kind of in this, deep kind of hole almost in the ground, it's a very vast piece of property. I mean, it's big.
Really big.
It's a big boy golf course. I mean, it plays almost 7,200 yards.
But I mean, those 7,200 yards are like, each hole is separated by like another at least 100 yards.
Yeah. The walk between holes is deep.
Yeah. And you're walking up like, and we talk about the undulation too, like it's not just like another 100 yards and then that's it, but it's literally like 100 yards of like, I don't know, 30-degree incline, 40-degree incline sometimes. And then you got to go back down, then go back up and go back down. It's pretty crazy, but the views are incredible. I think, I don't know if I've said this on the pod before, but I'm a sucker for like natural amphitheater courses or courses that have like an amphitheater feel. And I definitely think that Chambers kind of fits that mold where it's like, it is this, this kind of like land that, it is kind of like a bathtub feel. But there's also like, you can see everything. It's a huge property and it's a big walk too.
I think the one thing too, I think the holes are in front of you too. That's the thing. It forces you to hit shots, but it's not going to surprise you. There's nothing that's going to jump out at you. Approaching the greens are where I think the defense of the course really, really starts biting you in the ass. The greens, you have to play the slopes. You can't play pins. And so first time you're out there, having either somebody that's going to caddy for you or someone that's been out there multiple times is super important because you need to know where to play it. The pin's playing front right, and there's a hillside on the left, you're probably going to want to aim for the hillside left because it's going to play off of that. If you play at the pin, there's probably a false front or it's going to fall into the bunker right. So you need to be able to know where to hit it so your ball is going to end up in the right place, because you can hit it in the right place and your ball is not going to end up there. So I think Chambers is really defensive when it comes into approach shots, but I think off the tee, you're hitting it straight, you're hitting it well. I think you're going to put yourself into good positions to be able to score out there, but it's all on approach and it's all about putting. I mean, I think those are the massive things at Chambers that get people is you cannot go at the hole. It's just if you're playing your normal munis at home or your course around, you can't do that. Here, you're going to need to play undulation. You're going to need to know what the greens do because you're going to get yourself ejected if you go at pins.
Yeah.
Balls aren't going to stay there. There's going to be a few bowl-style greens that will funnel towards the hole, and if they have them in the right positions, you can attack them. But again, if you've never played there, it's going to be really difficult for you to be able to know what holes and what it's going to do for you. And then I think, some of the tee shots out there might be some of the most, there's not a lot of flat tee boxes or tee boxes that are level to the fairway. A lot of the tee boxes are going to be elevated. And it depends on the actual tee box that you're playing because they're going to be at different levels. From the back, you're going to get a lot more elevation from your tee shots, but I think that's one of my favorite things out there too is, some of the views that you get from the tee boxes, but also some of the carries that you're going to achieve from kind of elevated tee boxes. You get to see more of the course, you get to see more of the hole and kind of know what to do while you're out there. I really appreciate that. And, I think how the property is laid out is super utilizing every inch of the most playable parts of that course. One kind of starts down at the bottom of the bowl, and then by the time you get back to 9, you're basically almost wrapping back up to the level of what the pro shop and the facility is.
Yeah.
You kind of almost go wrap around. You kind of slowly get higher and higher and higher in elevation, and then by the time you get to 8 to 9, you're like, oh, I'm practically at level again with the pro shop. And then
so for 9, did they have the tee box up top?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Only the first time I played it. The second time I played it, I think they had it bottom.
Yeah. Last time I played it, this was in November, they had it at the bottom too. But the previous time I played it, they had it at the top. And I think 9 was definitely one of the holes that I do remember the most. Just because it's 9 and it's like a crazy drop from tee to green. But yeah, I played it on the bottom, and honestly, it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, 9 is such an insane par. 9 is such a great par 3. It really is. I don't think there's anything. I don't think I've played a hole like that has that much undulation that's that fun, but it's so hard. There are an insane amount of bunkers right on that hole. An insane amount of bunkers right, but it's by far one of the most picturesque holes because you are literally hitting towards the Puget Sound. You've got some of the most spectacular views you're going to see in the Pacific Northwest. And then after 9, you work your way back down the hill, down to 10, and then you've got an elevated tee shot into 10 that kind of goes down into the fairway.
Yeah.
And God, it just works its way back into the tub, and then kind of slowly undulates your way a little bit higher and higher all the way back to 18, and then you're still not at full elevation like you were on 8 and 9. You work your way back up to the pro shop after 18, but it's just how it was built and how they built the front 9 to kind of wrap up the hill and then kick you back down. I think it's just so cool. I just haven't come across a lot of courses that are this well planned out and designed, and to be on such a manufactured piece of land and be able to find those holes without really having natural undulation or natural landscape and it being an old rock quarry, I think that probably lended to them being able to do some crazy holes like that, because there would have to be a lot of ground movement to be able to make it any flatter or not play like that. But I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
So let's chat favorite holes.
Oof.
So for me, my favorite hole on the course is, it's tough. I mean, I really love 14. I think 14 is a great hole. You get a very open fairway. There's a single bunker in the middle of the fairway that kind of just flirts with you. If you stay a little left, a little right, you're not going to have too much issue with it. Yeah. But it's just kind of a visual, nuisance where it kind of gets in your brain that it's going to be an issue. You don't want to miss left. You're in a ton of natural fescue, and then there's a bunch of there's literally bunkers that run the entire left side of the fairway. But if you hit a good tee shot on that hole, it's pretty gettable if you're not playing the back tees. I mean, it plays 423 from the one-ups, which is about 6,500. And if you want to play the combos, the sand and gray, which is the one-up and the one below that, that's right at 6,300. And you're going to play that guy, also at 423, but very gettable. I mean, if you're carrying it 240 to 250 and you get max rollout, 260 or so, I mean, you're not left with much in. And, I think it's super gettable. But again, the green on 14 is going to, if you're not hitting the right section of it, is going to eject you. So, one thing is you're going to have a higher lofted club approaching that, so you can attack it a little bit better. But I think it's just it's such a super cool visual hole. And you're playing towards the Puget Sound on that hole. Yeah. It's just visually spectacular. I mean, off the tee, all the way to the green, the way the hole's laid out to the views of the Puget Sound, it's by far my favorite hole out there.
Yeah, I really like that hole too. I think, to your point, of having like course knowledge a little bit. So when I played it back in November, it was me, my cousin, and his friend, and we were paired up with it was this kind of older guy, but I don't know if he was a member there, but he said he plays there like once or twice a week. So I would hope he's a member there, or else he's paying ridiculous prices. But 14 I feel like is one of those holes where you kind of need to know where to hit it, because I took the left side, and if you're a little too far left, you're kind of in the crap in the bunker, but if you go right, it's a safer play, but you'll have like a longer approach shot in. And I basically just he told me where to hit it, and that's where I went. And 14 definitely was one of those holes where having, someone like that definitely helped out. I think my favorite hole, or one of my favorite holes, is, if I'm remembering correctly, is 6. I think we talked a lot about the kind of like the bathtub effect, almost, where like kind of those middle holes. You're kind of more in like the queries almost, right? Like you're in the more intimate settings around the greens and around the approach shots. And 6, if I'm remembering correctly, is one of those holes where the tee box is, you're teeing off and you can see the sound on your right, and the fairway is pretty large, but your approach shot is into like this little quarry like valley almost. And then you finish the hole in that valley. And I don't know. I think just the transition from like ocean view all the way into like these deep quarries is really cool. And I think another one that kind of is the same as that is 10. I think I remember that green being so small and so narrow, but you're also in like this little quarry, kind of like another intimate setting where you're just like, it's just you and your group and you're just battling, the golf course. Yeah, those two holes are really cool to me. And I could say 18 too. I could honestly say all of them, but yeah, I'd say 6, 10, and 18 are probably my favorite holes.
I mean, it's hard to pick one out there. I mean, I think any hole that plays towards Puget Sound, I just really love. I mean, if the wind is kicking, it's going to be a very hard hole when you're playing towards the Puget Sound because the wind's going to be coming directly at you. But, you know, if you get a clear day with no wind, and I would definitely recommend anybody going out there for the first time to play in the morning, or late morning, early afternoon, because around 2-3 o'clock is when the wind is going to be at its worst. And so if you can get off the course by 1 or 2, you're going to be in pretty good shape, especially if you catch it with good weather. The wind is always more tame in the morning or late morning, early afternoon. And then you're going to get kicked in the face anytime after 2 o'clock. That's when the wind is going to pick up. It's going to get nasty. And even if it's not raining or getting normal Pacific Northwest weather, the wind's just going to kick you in the teeth. So, but, you know, I think for any out-of-towners, it's going to be a very expensive round. You know, I think it's in the mid-200s to play. But if you're local, they give you very good rates. They really hook up the locals to make sure that they stay connected with the roots of the people, because it is a publicly owned track. It's you know, ran and operated publicly. I think it's one of the best courses you're ever going to have that's a non-resort.
Yeah.
Really cannot beat it.
Yeah, it's it's definitely a course that is near and dear to my heart. One, I mean, it's a championship level course, right? It's a big boy championship level course. I wish the USGA, or any, you know, the PGA, like anybody would kind of give it a chance again. I think the US Opens, they have it until like they have it all scheduled to like 2050, I think. There's like a couple in there that are like, that are open, but I mean, the chances of it coming back to Pacific Northwest are pretty slim. I would think they might go to Bandon, but I feel like that's kind of a mystery course.
They need to figure out hotels at Bandon.
Yeah.
There's not enough places for people to stay to host a U.S. Open or a PGA Championship. They need to figure out lodging out there, but unfortunately, I kind of feel the same way. I think they might get it before Chambers gets another shot at it, but I do think that the big boys need to give this guy another shot, because it's a crown jewel of the Pacific Northwest. We love it. It's near and dear to our heart. I, in my humble opinion, it's top 5 golf courses on the West Coast publicly wise. It's number 1 in Oregon and Washington for me. That's just my humble opinion. I think PAX feels the same way. So if you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, if you're coming out to Seattle, and you're bringing your sticks, it is an absolute must to play. I mean, Pax loves it so much that he's got a flag hanging on his wall behind him.
It's right there. I actually have here, let me This might be a little weird. I got the U.S. Open towel too.
He's even showing the U.S. Open Chambers Bay towel with all
Please come out.
We need it back. We need it back, guys. We need another championship here in the Pacific Northwest. It needs to happen. Bring it back. Let's start a rally. Let's do write-ins, emails to the U.S. Open. Let's get one back out here. It needs to happen. We're fiending for it in the Pacific Northwest. So
Before I die, I wanna see another one here.
One more at least. All right, buddy. Well,
all right.
Love chatting Chambers, and I'll catch you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Later, buddy.